Balaam, a figure deeply rooted in the ancient Near East, emerges from Mesopotamia as a diviner and prophet, widely recognized for his extraordinarily potent divining abilities. His intricate and often controversial narrative unfolds dramatically within the biblical texts, intertwining directly with the Israelites during their momentous journey towards the Promised Land. King Balak of Moab, observing the immense multitude of the Israelites, and gripped by overwhelming fear and apprehension regarding their burgeoning power, desperately sought to impede their progress and neutralize their presence. Consequently, he dispatched messengers to procure Balaam's services, harboring a firm belief that Balaam's powerful curses held the capacity to effectively thwart the Israelite nation. This pivotal decision sets the stage for a series of profound divine interventions, complex human choices and moral dilemmas that continue to resonate through theological discussions. God's initial, unequivocal response to Balaam's involvement in Balak's scheme is paramount to understanding the subsequent events. When Balak's initial contingent of messengers first approached Balaam with their tempting proposition, God explicitly and unambiguously forbade Balaam from accompanying them, or, more importantly, from uttering any curse against the Israelites, emphatically declaring them to be a profoundly blessed people. However, King Balak, driven by an unyielding fear and determination, did not relent. He subsequently dispatched a larger, more esteemed delegation of officials, laden with even grander promises and more enticing rewards, hoping to sway Balaam. Perhaps influenced by the allure of greater financial compensation or elevated status, Balaam, against better judgment, again sought divine counsel regarding Balak's renewed offer. This time, surprisingly, God seemingly permitted him to go, but crucially, with an extremely stringent caveat. Balaam was commanded to speak only precisely what God specifically instructed him to say. This apparent divine permission, however, proved to be profoundly misleading and ultimately concealed a deeper, simmering divine displeasure at Balaam's motivations and persistence in pursuing a path that was clearly against God's initial explicit command. This simmering anger manifested in a truly dramatic and miraculous fashion when the angel of the Lord appeared to physically obstruct Balaam's path. In a truly astonishing turn of events, this divine messenger was initially visible only to Balaam's humble donkey, not to Balaam himself. The donkey, endowed with the miraculous power of human speech, audibly questioned Balaam's harsh treatment and refusal to proceed, ultimately saving Balaam's life by recognizing the divine threat. Through this extraordinary event, Balaam was finally able to perceive the formidable angel, who then conveyed the critical message that the donkey's unusual actions had indeed prevented Balaam's imminent demise, forcing him to confront the gravity and peril of his situation and his stubbornness. In a profound twist of fate, and much to King Balak's intense frustration and dismay, Balaam, despite his initial intentions and Balak's fervent desires, found himself utterly unable to pronounce curses upon Israel. Instead, he was divinely compelled to repeatedly utter blessings upon the Israelite nation, affirming their special status as God's chosen people. Balaam, now seemingly submissive to the divine, will steadfastly maintain that he could only articulate the exact words that God placed into his mouth, thereby defying Balak's earnest pleas for a curse. This unexpected inability to directly curse Israel ultimately led to a far more insidious and treacherous plot, infamously known as the doctrine of Balaam. Realizing that direct curses were ineffective against a divinely protected people, Balaam deviously advised Balak to entice the Israelites into illicit sexual relationships with Moabite and Midianite women. This calculated strategy was designed to lead them away from their monotheistic faith and into pagan rituals, idolatry, and moral compromise, thereby provoking God's wrath and lifting his protective hand. This deceptive and morally bankrupt strategy was a profound act of betrayal against God, and subsequently led to widespread sin, spiritual defilement, and a deep moral decay among the unsuspecting Israelites. The core essence of the doctrine of Balaam is a dangerous spiritual compromise, an insidious temptation that subtly encourages believers to rationalize that a little sin is acceptable, particularly if it promises tangible personal gain, be it financial prosperity, social acceptance, or worldly influence. It actively promotes a dangerous disregard for the divine, call to spiritual separation and holiness, deliberately blurring the distinct lines between God's sacred commands and the alluring, often corrupting desires of the world. The repercussions for the Israelites, who succumbed to this temptation were catastrophic and immediate, as divine judgment, manifested in a devastating and deadly plague that swept mercilessly through their encampment. The biblical account in Numbers 31:16 directly and explicitly attributes this calamitous outcome to Balaam's treacherous and insidious counsel, underscoring the severe consequences of spiritual compromise and disobedience. Balaam's compelling and tragic narrative serves as a potent and enduring cautionary tale throughout religious history, and he is consistently portrayed and vehemently condemned in later biblical texts and subsequent theological interpretations. He is invariably depicted as a false prophet, a spiritual mercenary who ultimately succumbed to the corrupting influence of the wages of unrighteousness, prioritizing personal gain over divine obedience and truth. His reprehensible actions were directly responsible for leading countless others astray, causing the Israelites, God's chosen people, to stumble grievously into the heinous sins of idolatry and fornication, thereby provoking God's fierce and righteous wrath. The book of Revelation 2:14, a text rich in prophetic symbolism, specifically issues a solemn warning against the pernicious teaching of Balaam, unequivocally highlighting its destructive, deceptive, and spiritually corrosive nature, identifying it as a serious problem that threatens the purity of the early Christian communities. Ancient Old Testament interpretations further corroborate Balaam's profound betrayal, meticulously detailing precisely how he deliberately provided Balak with the strategic, insight, and wicked methods necessary to corrupt Israel, consequently leading to the tragic removal of God's protective hand from his people. Some scholarly perspectives also highlight Balaam's multifaceted role, recognizing him as a complex individual who functioned as a diviner, a prophet, and a seer, embodying a unique blend of supernatural insight and moral ambiguity. While the Apostle Paul, in his extensive and influential epistles, did not directly quote Balaam, various theological interpretations and biblical scholarship have drawn intriguing and thought-provoking parallels between Paul's experiences and Balaam's narrative, albeit with significant contextual differences and nuanced distinctions. These interpretations suggest that both influential figures, in their distinct, yet occasionally resonant ways, initially resisted the allure of monetary gain or personal enrichment, only to later face accusations of manipulation, ulterior motives, or a compromise of their integrity. Both Paul and Balaam also operated within a unique spiritual space, where their actions and words carried immense weight, capable of delivering either profound blessings or devastating curses, and, in some interpretations, inadvertently leading to moral compromise within their respective communities. Paul, throughout his missionary journeys and epistles, frequently found himself compelled to vigorously defend his character and motives against persistent accusations of financial impropriety, a situation that bears a superficial resemblance to Balaam's initial refusal of payment. Yet, despite their initial rejections of material gain, both men were, at different times, suspected of harboring ulterior motives or pursuing personal agendas, illustrating the complex interplay between divine calling and human fallibility. It is crucial to emphasize that these are primarily analytical parallels, drawn by scholars and theologians, rather than direct textual citations or explicit comparisons made by Paul himself. Balaam's most famous and oft-quoted pronouncements include his seemingly resolute declaration, "I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord my God, to do less or more," a statement that appears to convey unwavering obedience, and his profoundly insightful theological affirmation, "God is not man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it?" These powerful quotes, while articulating profound divine truths and seemingly projecting an image of righteousness and unwavering faith, ultimately serve to underscore the deep internal conflict and moral dichotomy within Balaam's character. He was a man endowed with the extraordinary ability to articulate and convey divine truth, with remarkable clarity and eloquence, yet tragically, he ultimately succumbed to the insidious allure of unrighteous gain and worldly influence, leading God's cherished people into grievous sin and spiritual peril, leaving behind a legacy of both prophetic insight and profound moral failure.